let's start with some breaking news. Late Friday night, ESPN's Jeff Carlisle reported that Jesse Marsch has held talks with Tristan Blackmon of the Vancouver Whitecaps about potentially recruiting him to play with Canada on the international level. Incredible. Gareth Wheeler, Jordan Wilson, Christian Jack with you. I'm not really sure how the inner workings of that, how it would play out. To my knowledge, Blackmon has no Canadian ties. He has been in Vancouver for, 3.5 years? That 5-year limit would extend through 2027. So then Tristan Blackmon, I guess by the letter of the law, would be available to play for the Canadian national team. But it sounds like, according to Carlisle, that they're trying to expedite this process. What are you hearing? What do you know about this, KJ?
What I know about it, as usual with Jeff, who's a fantastic journalist, is there's some truth to this. And Canada Soccer have gone into talks with Tristan Blackmon knowing that there would be a chance to expedite that. They would not be having this opportunity to talk with him thinking about beyond 2027, for example. So that is real. What isn't real at the moment is any kind of commitment from the player. So we just have to wait and see. This has not come out through the Canadian media because there's been a genuinely no comment from this within Canada soccer circles at the moment. What are the differences between the Blackmon, let's call it recruitment, and compared to other ones that are happening right now, and there's many, of dual nationals, is what you alluded to. He doesn't have any Canadian blood. So this is simply down to residency and how long he's been in the country and whether he actually wants it. And I think that's the big question in it, is whether you actually want it. And I think the reason why that is so important, one, is because Tristan Blackmon still can play for the United States, has been called up recently or named in a preliminary squad recently but didn't make it, is playing reasonably well. And do you feel Canadian? And I think that is a very, very important question in regards to, yes, he lives here, he plays for the Whitecaps, he's going to represent them in the Concacaf Champions Cup, he plays with Canadian players, so there's certainly a connection to that. But I don't want people to think that this is just being done because they feel like he can get better. There is a need from Canada Soccer to recruit only the players that feel Canadian when they put that shirt on.
Okay, so, but from a technical perspective, could Canada bring him on board? Is it allowed? Would FIFA allow such a move?
Well, I mean, I don't really know too much about that. What I would say is that, yes, that they believe that in what I'm hearing, they believe that they can get that.
Okay.
FIFA's rule is 5 years.
Right.
So, but there are elements to this where you can actually expedite that in terms of whether they can say, okay, he's got his landed papers and then move forward with the passport. So they wouldn't have started this process, as I reiterate, without believing that they could get this over the line. But it is far from done. And, we'll have to see what Blackmon thinks.
That's international football today. The way that you can recruit and how you can, I don't know if the term manipulate is the right word, or take advantage of the way that the laws are written to bring players into your national team programs.
You got to finesse it a little bit.
And I think we're at a point right now, Jordan, although there's been incredible progress in terms of developing a player pool and developing players within the national team program, there's still some gaps. Yeah. There's still some holes if you want to be the best version of yourself heading into 2026, and bringing in another established center back where you think you know what you're getting from them would certainly benefit Canada at this point.
Yeah, I'll make it quick. You rewind from the last World Cup, and you're thinking this is an area and a position of weakness. I've said it. You've said it. Many people have talked about just the center-back role. And then you get a Bombito, who we saw as a CDM at Gold Cup, and then Derek Cornelius, who we've seen play in the middle of a back three against Japan, and you're like, it's not there. These two are playing their spot and doing nice and doing very, very, very well for the national team. Then you have a Blackmon maybe stepping up. I will say this, though, KJ. And when you have profiles and you look at players, he plays like a Canadian.
He does, yeah.
He plays with this.
Yeah, I think.
And that for me is
something about him.
There's something about him, the way he moves, the way he leads, the way he'll put his body in front of a child. That's a lot of center backs.
It's tough, yeah.
But you look at it, he is tough. And you see he almost has that chip on his shoulder. But yeah, if he's playing for 2026, I think he'd be a great addition.
I got to see who else is on Jesse Marsch's list.
Yeah.
It's funny, names just pop out. And you're like, I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of happy with Herdman's pursuit of Aidan Morris. The list goes on and on. So you never know where the next player for Canada may come from. It's not always Brampton or Montreal these days. There are other ways to go about doing it. So Jesse Marsch has now celebrated 1 year at the helm of Canada. Here's his record. It feels like the performances and what they've been able to do on the field are much better than the record actually shows. But when assessing what a manager has done over the course of a year, 2 years, whatever that tenure may be, there's a lot that goes into it when you're evaluating the successes and failures. So what has been the biggest influence or the biggest aspect that Jesse Marsch has had on the Canadian men's national team program since joining, in your opinion, KJ?
Yeah, great question. For me, I think this era will be defined and reported on in the future as the year that Jesse Marsch brought Canada out the shadows. I really do. I think that the way that they came out of Qatar and then into a difficult year with lots of different off-the-field stories, and then away from the brotherhood, there was a real identity crisis within the national team at the time. And we've sat on this very station and on this very show wondering who they could get for the national team. And I think I certainly said about 14 months ago, I think they would have been lucky to get a man of this caliber. In the end, they got it over the line. And we all know there's a reason for that because of the World Cup, but also because he saw more than just a group of players. He saw a group of men that he believed he could connect with. And he's done that. And he's brought them out the shadows to they now play the way that we want them to play. They believe in themselves. Yes, do they have limitations? Yes, do they have issues? Yes, do they sometimes play up against teams that are going to be far better than them and beat them? Of course, but I do believe he's getting almost the most out of almost every player. We talked earlier about defending. It was a fact that Jesse Marsch, when he went through his checklist to figure out whether he actually wanted to take this job, it was his very last one, defending. Do we have enough defenders who I feel like I can take over this? And he ticked that box and he's done it. You know, and that's all on the field. But the way that he works away from the field, bringing a lot of the national associations together, genuinely caring about people. I really believe that this is a man that cares more about people than winning matches. And the precision in the way that he communicates to people and has really changed the reputation inside, within 12 months, I think is marvelous. He's played 34 players in those 15 games, and every one of them would have a very positive thing to say about him, even the ones who played very short amount of minutes. So I think it's been an outstanding first year, exceeded everybody's expectations. And with another 12 to 13 months to go, I think we should all be very excited about what he can achieve at the World Cup.
KJ, I think in 2025, a lot of managers come and go, and a lot of times what you say about a manager is maybe he lost the room, or when it's time to go, or people talk about how can you get everyone on the same page in the locker room. And what that comes down to me, and what I will praise Jesse Marsch about, specifically what you mentioned, the time that he did it, that was very imperative for this program, is buy-in. From the top player to the player that might not or was forgotten to maybe someone like Schaffelberg that everyone knew had potential but just really didn't know where to place him, where to be. Is he a guy to come off the bench? Can he actually start games and really go from the beginning? There's buy-in. Everyone is on the same page, win or lose, and of course there's expectation. You can look at the last match going into the Nations League against Mexico, and we feel disappointed because you expect more from this team. But regardless, win or lose, whether they're scoring or they're not, there's a buy-in. Everyone's on the same page for the badge, for the Maple Leaf, and that's why Jesse Marsch gets my respect.
I'll say this. I mean, it feels right. And that's the biggest compliment that I can pay him. It seems like he is the right fit for this group, for the fans, for the country. It just feels right. You know, sometimes there's awkward fits in terms of who manages where and how this all works out. It feels right. I will say he really benefited from that early Copa America run. There were good vibes from the outset. Year 2 is his biggest challenge here because what's gone on with Alphonso Davies, the expectations have raised. We're heading into a World Cup. Still questions to do with the squad, the way that they play. If they come out and don't play well this summer, do those emotions kind of go away and does the narrative change? Pressure is on. Good first year for Jesse Marsch, but year 2 is the one that's going to be definitive in determining his success or failure as national team head coach.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think that's very fair, but ultimately what will define Jesse Marsch is the World Cup.
Yeah, right.
It's the World Cup, right? And that is ultimately going to be his second year. And I'm telling you now, Canada are going to get a draw, and they're going to get 3 teams in the World Cup. And out of that draw, we don't know who it's going to be. There's going to be 2 teams that we're going to go on. They need to beat them, and they should beat them. And there's going to be another one who they're going to go, that'll be a bit of a challenge. And this is a team that's never won a game in a World Cup, and they need to win. They need to get through that group, and they know that. And then they need to have a real challenge and try and get through to that last 16. Okay, and if they can do that, that is an incredible achievement. But I'm with you, over the next few months, particularly now against the likes of, no disrespect, Curacao, El Salvador, Honduras, the teams that are going to play in the Gold Cup. The next big challenge for them, the next frontier, is not playing teams that have a lot of possession like they did in Copa America. It's the other way. It's on the front foot, stepping forward. We're going to control the games. We're going to score the goals. We're now going to be the one, because those are the teams that I said before, the two teams, the aforementioned teams in the World Cup, they're going to go, oh, we just got Canada playing in Canada in a World Cup. We're going to sit in a low block, and can you break us down? That's now the biggest challenge tactically for this team under Jesse Marsch, and let's see whether they can do it.
And that's the on-field stuff. This is Canada soccer after all, and the off-field stuff always perks up. So you need to keep your eye on the prize, both on and off the field. Jonathan David wrapped up an incredible career for Lille. Look at that, 232 games. His final one today came off the field to a standing ovation. 109 goals. I would have never thought that at the time when he made the move to Lille. 109 goals in 232. It's absolutely incredible. He leaves a legacy behind, Jordan, but now begs the question, what is next? As he's made it official, he is leaving Lille. Well, as of now, the campaign's done and dusted.
No, Culture Bear, look, what a time he had there. Lille and the goals that he scored, and you go on and on about his one-touch finishing, but he was the man for the job. I think now, look, I've said it all the time, and I'll recap. It's not about going to the biggest, most prestigious club. He needs to go somewhere, KJ, where he's playing week in and week out, and he's the man. Because he was the man at Lille. He needs to continue that and make sure that 2026, the World Cup that Canada is co-hosting, he's going into that tournament with all the vibes and finishes just like this.
Yeah, I agree with you. Look, it was wonderful to see just the Canadian given the amount of reception that he got today in France.
Well, amazing.
Not only just getting the round of applause coming off, but the video screen board afterwards, the presentation.
Deserves it.
Forever a club legend with that club. And again, it's a profile of a player. It's not always going to be the same for everybody else. When he went there, people thought, okay, 2 years, he's going to be going to another bigger club. And it suited him to stay there for the continuity for him and his form. And that might be the same again. It might not be, okay, just a little bridge to another team to then go to a monster team. He's a player that really enjoys the stability and being built around him. And to your point, playing week in and week out. So I think, and I really hope that the next big step for him is a place where he can become the man again.
Where's he going next, KJ?
Well,
Where's
we'll
he
see.
going?
I mean, Napoli is the
Where would you like to see him?
Napoli is the overwhelming favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You'd like to see him there?
I think it would be a great fit.
I think there's a number of teams that he'd fit right in Serie A. I think Serie A is serially underrated.
He can play anywhere.
Bad rap. CPL on TSN next week. Oh, it's a clash of the Titans, like 1 and 2 on the table. Halifax Wanderers and Atletico Ottawa. And look at that, the following week, Forge and Cavalry, the Canadian Premier League on TSN, is presented by One Soccer.
Top dogs unbothered. Atletico Ottawa are running the league. But Halifax has a keeper with something to prove. Yesley facing his former squad, and he's not here to play nice. They traded blows in the opener, a 2-2 slugfest.
Here's Rhea! Oh my goodness! He's back to goal!
So what now? Revenge? Statement? Chaos? The Canadian Premier League. Halifax, Ottawa. Saturday on TSN and One Soccer.